Hello everyone. So on this video I'm going to go over chapter 1 of your textbook. So it's basically an introduction to the whole course. So many of the chapters that we cover in this course is a mix of theory and applications, okay? And the application is basically like observation. So you are observing something, and this observation has a content which is the theory. So there is a base to our observation. So every time we are observing an increase in the prices of gas, then there must be a theory behind this increase. And for example, the theory behind the increase in the price of gas is the increase, for example, in the demand for gas. So it's the demand price theory. So the same thing for this course. So we will be talking about observations like the increase in labor participation rate and how it involves a theory. So that's why the prerequisites for this course involves the principles of microeconomics and the principles of macroeconomics, because in the principles courses we were studying the theory, whether it's from the consumer, from the firm, from the government point of view, or we are talking about different macroeconomic conditions of an economy like inflation, unemployment, immigration, and so on. So each and every chapter in our textbook or in this course would be talking about a mix of theory and practical application. So why we're studying labor economics? So we are talking about like in general in macroeconomics we're talking, for example, about resources, right? And these resources are limited, right? So we have limited amount of resources, but in the meantime we have unlimited needs and wants, right? So this is what we took in an introduction to economics course. So whether we are talking about an introduction to macroeconomics or an introduction to microeconomics, so we always start with the macroeconomic problem where we have limited resources that is way below our needs and wants. So the same thing for this course, labor economics. When I talk about resources that are limited, whether I'm talking about just monetary resources like your income, or whether I'm talking about time. So time is a resource, right? So we have a certain limited number of hours per day, but there are so many things that I need to do per day, right? But out of this 24 hours a day, I still have to sleep, I still have to go out and have fun, and I also need to work so that I'm able to satisfy my needs and wants. So in this course, we will be talking about a market. And this market has this kind of interaction between my needs, my demand, right? And the supply for my service. And this interaction between the two is working under this big economic problem, which is the inequality between resources and needs and wants. Okay, so in this labor market, any market, doesn't have to be labor market, like Pepsi market, Coke market, right? Pizza market. Whenever we say market, then it has to consist of demand, supply, their interaction brings a price. So again, in the labor market, we will be talking about demand for workers, the supply of workers, the price of this interaction, which is the price of workers or wages. So the price would be the wages. Out of studying this course, we'll be able to understand, okay, the economic problems, social problems like unemployment, right? And how these different problems that are facing our economy or any other economy, and how we can deal with it based on the theory that we will study in this course. So, whenever we talk about a market, we need to talk about participants, okay? So, we have workers, we have firms, and we have someone or an entity in between, which is the government. So, the workers are the suppliers of the service, okay? And those suppliers of the service, um, they actually looking not for any job but the best job. So when you graduate, you will be applying for different jobs, and ultimately you would land into the best job from your point of view that satisfies your needs and wants. We have also another player in the market, the firms, and those are the demanders of the service. So you can look at those as the suppliers, the supply, and those are the demanders, right? And those suppliers also, they face the same problem. They have limited amount of resources that they can put into this market, but they have also a certain need and want, which is maximizing their profits. The government has certain regulations, and these regulations are used in order to regulate the interaction between the suppliers and the demanders. So we need the government to regulate this kind of interaction. And again, the government has a certain goal, which is to achieve different goals of public policy. The different regulations are related to the minimum wages, occupation safety, and many other regulations that we will discuss in details. So the three actors, the first one are the suppliers of the service, and those are the most important actor because we are talking about labor economics, and without labor I don't have the market, right? So those are the most important actors. Those are the suppliers of the service. And those are like us. We have certain needs and wants. And in general, we say we need to maximize our satisfaction, right? From consuming different goods and services. Those also have a certain objective, is to maximize their well-being. So they want to maximize or optimize the best option available from all different job offers, for example, or from different available choices. So they are the suppliers of the time, they are the suppliers of the service, and they do different activities, right, in order to have a higher payoff. So whenever I'm talking about a supply, you already know that from the Introduction to Economics course, we know that this is the quantity and this is the price. And the prices, different prices and different quantities. And as the price increases, the quantity increase if you are a supplier. So the supplier or the supply curve has a positive relationship between quantity and price. The higher the price, the more the incentive to produce more or supply more. So we move on different points along the supply curve. So you can apply this to the workers. So if I say a worker, then the price and quantity would be the same idea but with just different names. So the price here is going to be the wage, and the quantity here is the number of hours. So the number of hours, I'm just going to abbreviate it as HR, which is hours. Let's put an S, so hours worked. So the higher the wages, the worker is more willing to supply higher number of hours. And of course, we are not talking about up to 24 number of hours. No, we have a certain limit because we need some biological rest, like sleeping. We need like to have fun, like leisure time, and so on. The second important player are basically the firms, and those are the people who demand workers. So those are the people who um, hire workers, the demand workers, or do not demand workers or fire. So they are the ones who would make the hiring decisions. And they have a certain objective, like any actor in the market, is to maximize their profits. Okay? So, of course, when I talk about a demand curve, like when you are going and buying uh, anything, okay? Let's say you are buying cans of Coke. So this is the quantity of the cans of Coke and this is the price. And of course, it makes sense that as the price drops, you consume more. Again, you have a certain limit on how much you can stand on how many cans per day. But in general, it's a negatively sloped curve. The higher the price, the lower the quantity, or the lower the price, the higher the quantity. Whatever direction you want to move, it's by the end, it's a negative relationship. Again, I can apply this to the labor market, and the labor market would be like, okay, this is the wage and this is the number of hours demanded. So the higher, or let's say the lower the wage rate in the market, the higher the demand for hours worked by the workers. Okay, so let me just rephrase this because I feel like I said it in a confusing way. So the cheaper the workers, the more demand for their service, right? It's a negative relationship, and the opposite is true. The more expensive are the workers, the less the demand for their service. Okay? So it's a negative relationship by the end of the day. The third actor, the government, the one that imposes the regulations, whether these regulations are related to the taxes to be collected, whether from the workers or from the firms. So they collect taxes from both you work, you pay income tax, from firms they pay corporate tax or any other capital gains tax or any other kind of tax. And they also put regulations like the minimum wage, for example, per state and so on. Okay? So they kind of regulate the labor markets. They put like all the guidelines and the main regulations that try to regulate the interaction between those two important players, the workers and the firms. So we can put it together. So if you are talking about the earnings and you're talking about employment, okay? So as we said, the labor supply, you are going to supply more of the service moving along the supply curve with higher earnings, with higher wages, for example. And this is from the worker's point of view. From the demand point of view, or from the firm's point of view, of course, as the price of workers increases, you demand less, 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 and less, and less. So it's a negative relationship. But there is a point of equilibrium where both are satisfied. For example, here, the 40,000K is satisfying for both the workers and the firms, and that's why we call it the point of agreement, the point of equilibrium. And at this point of equilibrium, they are happy to earn 40,000, I mean the workers, and the firms are happy to pay the 40,000. Of course, the workers would prefer to go all the way up, and that's why if we go from 40 to 50, we move more along the supply curve. And of course, the firms, they actually prefer 30,000 over the 40,000, and because this means a lower cost, and if there is a lower cost, they would actually demand more. Okay, so there is this kind of interaction, but the most important part of this interaction is reaching a certain agreement, is reaching a certain equilibrium, and this is the equilibrium in the labor market. Also, we can see shifts in the demand and shifts in the supply, but let's stop here and I'll continue in the next video.